Let's talk science. We've been on the topic of greatness and how a good fighter with the potential to be great can prove themselves to be great. And the number one way of is putting yourself in either a position where you're in a fight that you're supposed to lose and putting on a great performance, or even winning that fight. Another way is fighting someone that's supposed to give you your toughest challenge and you smoke them, and or in one way or another, or putting yourself in a 50-50 tough fight and dogging it out and winning against another potentially great fighter, if not a great fighter already. Or another way is doing something crazy like conquering several weight divisions. In the previous eras, like the one we're about to go into right now, there were no questions because they eventually got answered for the most part. And that's why I love going back, looking at the old school legendary fighters and doing the breakdowns there. They are legendary for a reason. Now let's get into it. Now, there are a couple of ways Holyfield has defended and countered the jab of Riddick Bowe. The outside slip followed by his own jab has been his primary go-to. So whoop, head goes towards his right shoulder, and then he steps inside, jab. That's how he was dealing with the jab of Bowe a lot of times. And for a lot of this fight, I feel like he was winning the jab battle. But we're finna talk about an adjustment Bowe makes in a second. And you can tell that Bowe is reading that, because only just a few seconds later, he's going to let Holyfield establish his bounce. And as soon as he starts bouncing and he sees him coming forward just a little bit, he times that forward step, jab, and he follows up immediately with the cross. He knows that when he gets to that outside slip position, all his weight is loaded up on that right side, so he's kind of stuck there. And then he knows the other thing is he's going to come with a jab, so if he gets the cross inside of the jab, there's no real defense there unless Holyfield has that right hand up to the other side of his face. I think at this point in the fight, Holyfield is at least somewhat aware that like his forward pressure, his front foot getting settled is being timed by Bowe, like how it was last time, and so he's going to adjust to that. He purposely takes an aggressive big step, but this time, instead of like stepping just head straight up for the taking, he slips inside, gets inside of the jab, and comes over top with this big overhand. Now this is the advantage of frame by frame, because you see Bowe turn away from it and it like partially catches the glove. So although that's a big shot, Bowe turns away from it and takes most of the steam out, and he does his classic kind of sweeping uppercut counter that he's been throwing this whole fight. Now, that 1-2 adjustment from Riddick Bowe was very intentional, and we can get another example of how he does the exact same thing. He jabs into that space, Holyfield ducks to his right side, he slips to the outside, and then Bowe sits there, reads it, and then immediately after, he jabs to get Holyfield down in that position again so he can line up the cross. And that's exactly what he does. Especially, it works especially well because Holyfield is going to be countering with his own left hand, so it leaves an opening around that left side. But Holyfield, and this is something I talked about before, when it comes to counter punchers, usually the goal is kind of like broken down into 2 steps: make them miss, make them pay. That's like the common way of breaking it down. But sometimes, a lot of times actually, if a counter puncher gets hit in the middle of trying to counter, it throws off their counter. But with Holyfield, it just doesn't matter. So earlier we talked about, if he's in this position, really the only thing he can throw effectively is something off of his right side, because all of his weight is loaded on that right side, and he gets blasted on the ear with this cross, but he just immediately answers back with an even bigger shot. So he's getting partially concussed, and he just launches a big counter. Now, even though this is an old school dog fight, it's violent, a lot of testosterone, there's still a lot of intelligence too. So Bowe throws that jab. What does Holyfield do? He does what he's been doing, which is that outside slip, him loading up to that right side. And then Bowe is going to step in aggressively, and it looks like he's going to line up the cross. You even see that right shoulder kind of like it's going to the cross, but instead he just got blasted with a counter. So now he pulls back. He's like, wait a second, let me be cautious. So he breaks up the rhythm just to make a read, and like, let me touch on the guard with that hook, let me just see. So that's like a slight little adjustment, him even being more cautious, him being aware that that counter is now there, and he's taking his time instead of just rushing in. In the previous part, we talked about a small defensive adjustment in Holyfield's guard that he made to deal with the 1-2. He gets timed by the jab there. He tries to close his guard. He can't get there in time, but he knows that cross is coming to his left side, so he takes his right hand, pulls it around, crosses it over to the left side to catch, deflect, and just absorb most of the force of that cross that's coming. And yeah, some of the force does get through, but if Holyfield catches then you know he's going to counter. Catch and counter master, comes with a big uppercut. Holyfield has that, not Holyfield, Bowe has that guard up for the left hook. Both of them are very aware defensively. Now Bowe has this very sneaky rhythm that I think is the reason why this 1-2 lands. You can see Holyfield kind of bounce back, and then he's gonna like pendulum back forward a little bit. Actually, he's gonna stop. So he's getting backed up, and then he stops, and then Bowe is coming forward. In the middle of Bowe's rhythm coming forward, he stays in rhythm and just 1-2 in the rhythm of him stepping, and it also times Holyfield once he eventually stops. So Holyfield's moving, Holyfield, once he stops right here, Bowe says wham, and he goes within the steps, within the rhythm of his steps. And I think that's why that 1-2 sneaks through. But Bowe has some little sneaky tricks that he pulls. They're so subtle that it seems like nothing, but I think is some layers to his game that are underrated. Now this is either a first in the fight, or this is the first one I can remember seeing where they engage in a hand fight, particularly Holyfield's right hand, his backhand, and Bowe's lead hand, his left hand. But Vander purposely like lowers his right hand underneath Bowe's, and he must be expecting Bowe to counter with a left hook because he gets inside of that shot and he tries to land this massive overhand. But again, the advantage of frame by frame, you see Bowe turn with the shot and it still lands. It's a big shot, but Bowe kind of like turns away from it, takes some of the steam off, and tries to counter. But that's just a sneaky move from Holyfield as well, just like sneaky, like hand fighting, get inside, just a cold move. Again, a big thing of what makes this fight so great is the constant adjustments. So Bowe's jab was giving Holyfield problems. Holyfield adjusted by building an outside slip jab counter, and then that was giving Bowe problems. So Bowe adjusted by entering with the jab, lining up the cross when Holyfield does that outside slip. And now Holyfield is trying to adjust to that 1-2, and we saw like some ways he was trying to do that. Here's another way he's trying to do that. As the jab comes out, you can see Holyfield instinctively wants to slip outside. He wants to go towards his right. You can see his head kind of go towards the right. But then instead, he's expecting that cross to go towards his right side. So he heads towards his left side, which puts him technically as an inside slip, but it puts him outside of Bowe's cross because Bowe's cross is going the other way. So he goes completely outside of Bowe's cross and he throws his own counter cross at the same time, which is just a great adjustment at the end of the round. But yeah, this is just a short part. I will upload another part later in the evening. Love y'all, fight scientists. I'm out.